When no weapons of mass destruction surfaced in Iraq, President Bush insisted that all those WMD claims before the war were the result of faulty intelligence. But tonight you're going to hear a different view from a former top CIA official, Tyler Drumheller, a 26-year veteran of the agency who's decided to do something CIA officials at his level almost never do: speak out. He says that the real failure was not in the intelligence community, but in the White House. He says he saw how the Bush administration, time and time again, welcomed intelligence that fit the president's determination to go to war and turned a blind eye to intelligence that did not.
It just sticks in my craw every time I hear them say it's an intelligence failure, it's intelligence. This was a policy failure.
Tyler Drumheller was the CIA's top man in Europe, the head of covert operations there, until he retired a year ago. He says he saw firsthand how the White House promoted intelligence it liked and ignored intelligence it didn't.
The idea of going after Iraq was U.S. policy, and it was going to happen one way or the other.
Are you saying that it didn't matter to the administration what the intelligence community had to say?
In the end, no, I don't think it mattered very much. I think it mattered if it verified this basic belief that had taken hold in the U.S. government, that now was the time. If we had the means, all we needed was the will.
The road to war in Iraq took some strange turns, none stranger than a detour to the West African country of Niger. In late 2001, a month after 9/11, the United States got a report from the Italian intelligence service that Saddam Hussein had bought 500 tons of so-called yellow cake uranium here to build a nuclear bomb. Many CIA analysts were skeptical.
Most people came to the opinion that there was something questionable about it.
And that was your reaction?
That was our reaction from the very beginning. The report didn't hold together.
And was that the general feeling in the agency?
That was the general feeling in the agency, yeah.
However, Vice President Cheney thought the story was worth investigating and asked the CIA not to discount the story without first taking a closer look. So in February 2002, the agency sent former Ambassador Joseph Wilson to Niger to investigate.
If Saddam Hussein had acquired 500 tons of yellow cake uranium in violation of UN sanctions, that would be pretty serious, wouldn't
Absolutely, certainly. And the fact that there was an allegation out there that he was even attempting to purchase 500 tons of uranium was very serious, because it essentially meant that they were restarting their nuclear programs.
Wilson spent 8 days in Niger looking for signs of a secret deal to send yellow cake to Iraq. He spoke to government officials who would have known about such a transaction. No one did. There had been a meeting between Iraqis and Nigerians in 1999, but Wilson was told uranium had never been discussed. He also found no evidence that Iraq had even been interested in buying uranium.
I concluded that it could not have happened.
And at the end of that 8-day stay, did you have any lingering doubts?
No. No.
Absolutely not.
None.
When he returned, Wilson told the CIA what he'd learned. Despite that, some intelligence analysts stood by the Italian report that Saddam Hussein had purchased uranium from Niger. But the director of the CIA and the deputy director didn't buy it. In October, when the president's speechwriters tried to put the Niger uranium story in a speech that President Bush was scheduled to deliver in Cincinnati, they intervened. In a phone call and 2 faxes to the White House, they warned, the Africa story is overblown, and the evidence is weak. The speechwriters took the uranium reference out of the speech. Meanwhile, the CIA had made a major intelligence breakthrough on Iraq's nuclear program. Naji Sabri, Iraq's foreign minister, had made a deal to reveal Iraq's military secrets to the CIA. Tyler Drumheller was in charge of the operation.
This was a very high inner circle of Saddam Hussein, someone who would know what he was talking about.
You knew you could trust this guy.
We continued to validate him the whole way through.
According to Drumheller, CIA Director George Tenet delivered the news about the Iraqi foreign minister at a high-level meeting at the White House.
The president, the vice president, Dr. Rice.
And at that meeting,
they were enthusiastic because they said they were excited that we had a high-level penetration of the Iraqis.
And what did this high-level source tell you?
He told us that they had no active weapons of mass destruction program.
So in the fall of 2002, before going to war, we had it on good authority from a source within Saddam's inner circle that he didn't have an active program for weapons of mass destruction.
Yes.
There's no doubt in your mind about it?
No doubt in my mind at all, no.
It directly contradicts, though, what the president and his staff were telling us.
The policy was set. The war in Iraq was coming, and they were looking for intelligence to fit into the policy, to justify the policy.
Drumheller expected the White House to ask for more information from the Iraqi foreign minister. He was taken aback by what happened.
The group that was dealing with preparation for the Iraq war came back and said they're no longer interested. And we said, well, what about the intel? And they said, well, this isn't about intel anymore. This is about regime change.
And if I understand you correctly, when the White House learned that you had this source from the inner circle of Saddam Hussein, they were thrilled with that.
First we heard they were, yes.
But when they learned what it was that he had to say, that Saddam did not have the capability to wage nuclear war, weapons of mass destruction.
The intelligence on Iraq.
This was really an attempt to get the government to acknowledge that the 16 words should never have been the State of the Union address. It was as simple as that. If you are going to mislead the American people, and you're caught at it, you got to fess up to it.
A day after Wilson's piece appeared, the White House acknowledged the president should not have used the uranium claim. But according to newly released court records, the vice president's chief of staff, Scooter Libby, leaked classified intelligence to reporters a day later in an effort to bolster the uranium story. What Scooter Libby didn't tell reporters is that the White House had been warned before the State of the Union speech not to use the Niger uranium claim.
At the same time they were admitting that the words should not have been in the State of the Union address, they were, now we know, sending Libby out to selectively leak only those pieces that continued to support this allegation that was baseless. In other words, they were furthering the disinformation campaign.
The American people want to believe the president. I have relatives who I've tried to talk to about this who'd say, well, no, you can't tell me the president had this information and just ignored it. But I think over time, people will look back on this and see this is going to be one of the great, I think, policy mistakes of all time.